It is that time again when we get some insights on the Bears from our Bear Blitz analyst, Hub Arkush. He joins us now from Chicagoland. And Hub, the Bears, at least defensively, were not themselves in London. I never thought I'd see the Bears' defensive front get run over like what the Raiders did to them. How do we explain that?
Well, I don't know if we can explain it, but I think you can assume that it's more of an aberration than anything else. You've seen it before. You go back to a similar situation last year. I think it was coming out of the bye and going down to Miami. A poor Dolphin team ran the ball on them well. It happened a few weeks later versus the Giants. It happens once in a while in the NFL. I think that there is good cause to continue to worry about things on the Bears offense. Obviously, the NFC, not just the NFC North, but the NFC West now is loaded. And so you got to win the division if you want to be sure of the playoffs. Nothing is going to be guaranteed on the wild card side. But at the end of the day, as frustrating and disappointing as that was Sunday, there's two things I would look at. Number one, these games in Europe are ridiculous. I think you and I have talked about this, and I know why the league is doing it to make more money for the owners, but it's really unfair to the players. And it's no excuse for the Bears. The Raiders had the same situation. They played their best game of the year, but it's an unusual situation. It creates all kinds of extra issues, and you can't use it as a guide to where a football team is really at. That's number one. Number two, last year the Bears were actually 3-3, not 3-2, and that's when they got hot and took off. So I wouldn't overreact to it, but yes, it was surprising. It was disappointing. And I think in addition to the trip to London, you have to remember you're already without one starting defensive lineman in Bilal Nichols, and then Akeem Hicks goes down on the sixth play of the game. Injuries are no more excuse than traveling, but there are some pretty good explanations as to why this might have been a possibility Sunday. And there's history to tell us that it's probably not something to panic about yet.
There was a lot of buildup going into the game about Khalil Mack facing his former team, and he was pretty quiet. What did the Raiders do to minimize his impact that maybe other teams would try to copy?
Well, they can try, but I don't think it's going to work. He wasn't really all that quiet. He didn't finish. He did come up with the one fumble recovery, didn't get a sack, was close on a play that was whistled dead. But at the end of the day, the Raiders used the Bill Belichick theory. They said, we're going to take away the one thing you do best, and we'll see what happens with the rest. And they committed 2 and 3 guys all day long to deal with Khalil Mack. He still was a factor at times, but wasn't able to be a one-man gang. And you can get away with that a lot easier when Akeem Hicks is not on the field. Again, Akeem Hicks and Bilal Nichols. So, there's a game film now that other teams can look at, and they can try and do something similar. But Khalil Mack's too good for that. And you know what? I would not expect to see Akeem Hicks again this year. I think if it is a dislocated elbow, it's not just taking time for that to heal, but you cannot work out at all with that arm or do any of your normal strength work, while you're healing it. So we haven't heard that from the Bears. I'm not saying that's the case, but minimally he's going to be gone for a while. And if he is gone for the season, that's a huge loss. The Bears didn't suffer anything like that anywhere on the depth chart last year. But if he is, they do still have a bunch of talent. You've got Matt Nagy telling us that Bilal Nichols is close to being back, and that would be a big help. So, again, I don't think that there's any formula the Raiders came up with that is going to work for everybody else to take Mack away. But it should give other offenses an idea of different ways to try and handle him.
On the flip side, the offensive line again failed to get the run game going, and for a unit that returned all 5 starters, albeit a different position somewhat, that's concerning. What are you seeing up there on the line, and can these run blocking issues be fixed?
Well, I'm not seeing any concern with the position switches. There's no doubt in my mind that James Daniels is better at center than he is at guard, and Cody Whitehair is going to be a better guard than he was a center. Now, James Daniels is young. He's trying to handle the line calls. He's very inexperienced. There probably are some communication issues they have to worry about, but they're going to use this week to self-scout that, and if they believe that's the case, they'll just give the line calls back to Cody Whitehair to make from guard. He wouldn't be the only guard in the league that does it. It usually is the center's responsibility. But that's fairly easily fixed if that's a big part of the problem. The bigger issue right now, Scott, is that Charles Leno Jr. and Kyle Long aren't playing very good football. And the Bears are going to have to make a decision over the next 10 days. Is it time to make a switch? I don't think they would switch both at once. I do think that they're both real problems, but Leno is a bigger problem right now than Long. You cannot have major penalties week in and week out, let alone multiple major penalties every week from the same guy. Kyle Long is a different story. I don't know how healthy he is. He has not been the worst guard in the history of the game, but he's not making the plays that you expect from him. And I think the question that you have to be concerned about is with the cumulative effect of the last 3 years of injuries and surgeries, is he just not physically able to do what he was able to do as a younger player. So people I've talked to tell me that looking at the tape of that Minnesota game, Rashad Coward played a lot better than anybody would have thought he would for his first extended NFL regular season experience position, particularly at a position he never practices at. But Matt Nagy has been saying for a while that while he doesn't think he's ever going to be a left tackle, so he can't be the swing tackle, they think he might not only eventually be a good right tackle, he might be pretty good inside at guard. He was pretty good inside at guard against Minnesota. They might consider giving him a shot out there. If Ted Larson's knee is okay, that would give them that opportunity to make the change there. I think it's unlikely, though. Larson unable to travel to London. I don't think 1 week off is going to get that knee 100%. And they're going to be a little reluctant with Coward only because he's so inexperienced. But I do think that there's 3 different things you can look at to try and improve the situation. They're going to do at least one of them, and maybe 2 or all 3.
Wow. Well, the timing of the bye week seems to be perfect with all the injuries and some of these changes that perhaps are coming. Wouldn't you say the bye week could not have come at a better time?
Yeah, it looks fortuitous right now. I don't think they wanted to go into it feeling awful about themselves, which I know they do coming out of that game in London because they're the better team. Oakland was great. I give them all the credit in the world. But if they played again the next 9 Sundays, I think most experts would take the Bears 8 or 9 times. And so knowing that you gave one away by not showing up prepared to play is tremendously frustrating. You hate to spend your whole week off thinking about it. Maybe that's a good thing. Maybe it'll get guys concerned enough that they'll come back reinvigorated and refocused and ready to go out and really make a difference. Either way, though, because of the injuries, you welcome this time off, and then you look at the injured players and figure out how many of them is the extra week going to be enough for. With the concussion to Taylor Gabriel, the extra week is huge. As close as they say Bilal Nichols is to maybe patting that hand up and playing, the extra week is very, very helpful. With Mitch Trubisky, because we still don't really know the specifics of the injury, every week that he gets to rest it is helpful, but whether he's going to be closer, when the Saints get to town or not, we just have no way of knowing. And again, we don't have a firm report yet on exactly what the status of Akeem Hicks is going to be.
All right, Hub, thank you. We'll talk to you again next week.
All right, take care, Scott.
And a reminder, folks, catch Hub right here every week. You can also hear him on the Bears pregame and postgame shows on Sports Radio 670, The Score in Chicago. And Hub is the executive editor of Pro Football Weekly and ProFootballWeekly.com, where you can find not only lots of Bears information, but information from all around the NFL. Up next, we'll have our predictions for this week's action in the NFC North. As we head to the break, here is our Bear Blitz trivia question. Which Chicago Bear holds the franchise record for having the most double-digit sack seasons in his career? The answer after the break.